main event, 15-round principles presenting the sensational Californian and former world heavyweight champion, Max Baer.
That was the voice of famed announcer Joe Humphreys, announcing the fight between Joe Louis and Max Baer in Yankee Stadium in 1935.
His worthy opponent, the new sensational pugilistic product, although colored, he stands out in the same class with Jack Johnson and Sam Langford, the idol of his people, none other than Joe Louis.
Today, his insulting words, although colored, would be enough to start a fight, but not in the ring. Tonight, we are going to explore the subject of the black athlete. And that is why I wanted to start the program off right here in a boxing ring. Because until 1947, a ring like this one was one of the few places where a black American could use his athletic ability to make money. But there was a catch even there. A black athlete could make money in the ring, but in effect, he was really in the ring to lose. For where better could the white show his superiority over the black than in hand-to-hand combat in the ring?
Jack Johnson was a black man back when white people lynched Negroes on weekends, back in 1909. They would send him letters saying, you fighting a white man, and nigger, if you knock him out, we'll kill you. He said, just kill my black buckers, I'm gonna knock this white man cold. And he would knock the white man out. Jack Johnson was the greatest. He had to be the greatest of all. He was bad when you think about it. I know I'm bad, but he was crazy.
You will be hearing sounds and seeing pictures that show the way it was and what it is today for the black athlete in America. You will hear great athletes of the past and present, their thoughts about the role of the black athlete. Their opinions vary, ranging from the belief that full equality for the black athlete has been reached to the dire warnings that this athletic emancipation has had a disastrous effect on the black youth of the land. The Jack Johnson era gave the lie to the simplistic concept that Americans prided themselves on sportsmanship and fair play. When Jess Willard finally knocked out Johnson in 1916, it would take more than 2 decades for another black, Joe Louis, to reign as heavyweight champion of the world. Along with Louis, another black star skyrocketed to international fame. At the 1936 Berlin Olympic Games, Jesse Owens upset Hitler's doctrine that the black was an inferior race when he won 4 gold medals. The young black now had 2 idols to emulate. But the only money Jesse Owens could make in sports was running against horses in exhibitions. And Joe Louis, after earning millions and donating thousands of dollars to armed service charities during World War II, ended up financially where he began, in virtual poverty. But it was World War II, with all its horrors, that sounded the call for change in America, and with it, the black athlete. Blacks emerged as stars of integrated service teams. And when World War II ended, the black social equality movement advanced with the black athletic movement. If the black could fight and die on equal terms with the white in wartime, he could live and prosper with the white in peacetime. World War II was just over when Branch Rickey of the Brooklyn Dodgers signed Jackie Robinson to play for their Montreal farm team. When Robinson made the Dodgers in 1947, it started the greatest revolution in professional sport. In mid-season of 1948, the year after Robinson joined the Dodgers, Roy Campanella was called up from the Brooklyn farm system. It was the beginning of one of the most brilliant but tragic careers in baseball history. Campanella was 27 years old when he joined the Brooklyn Dodgers and led them to 5 National League pennants. But in 1958, when he was 37 years old, he was in a near-fatal automobile accident. He lived, but was crippled for life. 3 times, he was voted the most valuable player in the National League. And today, he is a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame. In 1947, when Bill Willis and Marion Motley joined the Cleveland Browns of professional football's All-America Conference, the sports world heralded the news as football's answer to Jackie Robinson joining the Brooklyn Dodgers earlier that year. But that was not the case. Strangely enough, there were several black football players in the early 1920 professional leagues. The legendary Paul Robeson went from his All-American days at Rutgers to pro teams in Akron and Milwaukee before turning to the stage. Duke Slater, Iowa's great tackle, played 10 years in pro ball, winding up with the Chicago Cardinals in 1931. But it remained for Fritz Pollard of Brown University to go the full circle. All-American at college, a professional player, and later a professional coach of a white team in the 1920s. Fritz Pollard has passed his 80th birthday. I visited him at his home, and we talked about those early days.
In football, didn't they sing songs about you at some point?
Bye-bye, Blackbird.
Where?
All over.
Really?
Oh, well,
that was your theme song.
That was it. They didn't make any difference. Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, or any of the rest of them. Rhode Island, it was all the same because I was the only Blackbird during that time in intercollegiate football.
They ever call you names?
That first day I went out there, nigga digga this, digga that. Believe me, they called me that in the beginning until they saw that I didn't get mad at them, and then they stopped.
Do you think that your job back in 1915 and 16 was tougher than Jackie Robinson's when he came along?
Jackie had an easy time. They wouldn't allow me to have a place to change my clothes. I had to change my clothes in the cigar store, and I had to get a cab and with 2 or 3 white fellas and go from there. They didn't want to let me in the field, and the Brown team went out there, and I had to go after just 3 or 4 or 5 minutes before they blew the whistle. And we had it all figured out. And I ran in, got up the gate, then ran out, and they blew the whistle just about the time I got on the field. Oh, I had a lot of those kind of experiences. They called me all the niggas in the world. Those first few weeks I was out there until I ran over all the teams, then they began to change their mind.
It's more than half a century since Fritz Pollard played his last game when he was one of the few prominent black football players in the land. Today, the black athlete is dominant in 4 lucrative professional sports: baseball, football, basketball, and boxing. Incredible amounts of money have been made by black superstars. And for many young blacks of the ghetto, there is the belief that these astronomical figures are reasonable goals for them. But there are strong voices in the land who believe that the black emergence in professional sports has many pitfalls, comparing it to the famous quote of medicine: "The operation was successful, but the patient died." Dr. Harry Edwards is an eminent sociologist teaching at the University of California, Berkeley. He received worldwide fame in 1968 when he became the organizer of the Black American boycott of the Mexico City Olympic Games.
The reason that you have exceptional black athletes in American society, black athletes who clearly dominate every area where they participate in numbers, has to do with the fact that there's really no place else for blacks to go. And as a result, you have 30 million people in this country whose principal role models are athletes, and you have this disproportionately high number of talented, potentially superior black athletes channeled into an area such as sport. And so you find that blacks excel in every area of sport where they participate in numbers. One of the basic problems confronting blacks in American society in sport is that 60 to 65% of blacks on scholarship who go to predominantly white schools major in physical education, and about 70% of those blacks never graduate from college.
Does the black athlete suffer more in this respect than the white?
I think that it's generally true in American society that wherever the white suffers, the black suffers more, and athletics is no exception. Like Stevie Wonder says in his song Superstition, when you believe in things that you don't understand, you suffer.
Arthur Ashe is the only male black tennis player to win the United States Open and Wimbledon.
I think Harry Edwards is dead right. And I know Harry, and I know he is considered a problem for a long time. Black people spend too much time on sports and entertainment, far too much time. I would like to de-emphasize sports and re-emphasize education. But how can you fight Sports Illustrated and Wide World of Sports and Grandstand and the CBS Sports Spectacular? How can you fight that? And how can you fight OJ getting $750,000 to play football and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar getting $600,000 and Ali getting $5 million to fight? How can you fight it?
Edwin Moses is the 1976 Olympic 400-meter hurdle champion.
Everybody wants to be good in sports. It's a cultural thing among blacks, especially when you get around between 9 and 18, I suppose. You want to go play basketball, you want to play baseball, and you just have to compete. That's one way that black kids let off tension, and that's one way that they can prove themselves in their own environment. It's through sports. And so it's really positive in a way, but at the same time, you can't neglect education. And you can't neglect trying to get ahead in the world. And you can't neglect trying to be somebody.
Dr. Fletcher Johnson, a former basketball star in college, is a heart surgeon in Nyack, New York.
I think that the point is being missed in our community, the black community, that if we have a chance to play sports, because we spend an awful lot of time running and jumping, we have to take advantage of the time that we have at the universities to learn an education. I think that in our community we have to stress the importance of education and the cultural goods that we do have in our society. What I mean is that the athlete, as the athlete goes to school, should have some example set before him that he can hope, that he can aspire. He can have the aspiration to become a lawyer, a doctor, or an Indian chief, if that's his capacity, or a great architect. But instead, what he has in front of him is the great athletes in our country who seemingly make huge amounts of money. Well, they don't.
One of the most tragic cases of the black athlete is the career of Billy McGill.
I didn't know which way to go, and I couldn't get any help. I couldn't get a job, and, you got to eat.
In the early 1960s, Billy McGill was sought after by 75 colleges to play basketball. He chose Utah University. He then became the first choice in the National Basketball Association draft. But he never made it big in professional basketball and found himself unprepared for any other profession.
And for 2 years, I walked around, it was kind of bad. I mean, I was just actually like out on the street.
When John Carlos won the bronze medal in the 200-meter dash, he and his teammate Tommy Smith gave visual support of black protest when they raised their fists in the Black Power salute during the victory platform ceremony.
I had to go out and I had to win races. I put that first in my mind above everything.
So it appeared to me that they really wasn't concerned about any of the black athletes getting an education. They wanted you to take 4 units of badminton, 3 units of wrestling, 8 units of volleyball, 3 units of swimming, everything but the general requirements towards a degree.
You're gonna have to start getting y'all things together in terms of what y'all want to do after you leave track and field. Everybody's not gonna make it to the Olympic Games. And everybody's not gonna be able to run track until they're 50 years old. Want to know how you doing in school? I ask guys to bring their report cards out here to me. Let me see what you're doing in school. You're reluctant to do that?
This is Harlem, in Upper Manhattan in New York City. Many a ghetto kid dreams that one day he will be Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, dozens of other black superstars. To the poor black kid of the ghetto, basketball is a way out. And this truth is reinforced every summer when these basketball giants return to Harlem and play for no fee in the neighborhood tournaments. Here, young children watch and dream. And for most, that is all it is, a dream. The good life for the black athlete in professional basketball is only 3 decades old. Before 1951, only entertainers like the Harlem Globetrotters were able to earn money playing the game. Today, with black basketball players making up more than 60% of the teams in professional ball, it seems almost simplistic how the breakthrough came about. That day in 1951, when Coach Red Auerbach of the Boston Celtics had a meeting with basketball commissioner Walter Brown about a black player named Chuck Cooper of Duquesne University.
There were no blacks in the NBA at that time, and the draft was coming up, and I said to Walter Brown, I said, Walter, the best player available at the time we draft, in all probability, would be Chuck Cooper, and he's black. I said, do you have any objection? He says, Red, I don't care if he's green or yellow, it don't make any difference to me. If he can play ball, we want him.
You also brought the first black coach into the NBA, didn't you?
Russell and I are so close. We were in Philadelphia at the time. He said he'd like to see me during playoff time. I said, what's on your mind? He said, I'd like to coach the team when you retire. I said, you asking me, you're telling me. I said, now you know better than that. He said, I'm asking, I'd like to apply for the job. So immediately the wheels start turning. I says, who could better motivate Bill Russell in the twilight of his career than Bill Russell, the coach? So a couple of days go by, and I said, now you keep it quiet. I said, you got the job.
Though black players are dominating basketball more and more every year at every level, high school, college, professional, there are still very few black coaches. Ed Krinsky is a white coach at a predominantly black school.
I was once given an excellent bit of advice, and this goes back to 1968, 69, 70, when we did have racial unrest in the schools following the Martin Luther King assassination and so forth. We had a young fellow who was a teacher in our school system who had really kind of taken on all of the black mannerisms, the slapping the hands of the kids and so forth and so on, and, you know, really trying to ingratiate himself with the black kids and to become popular among the black kids. And I had one of my players, after watching this fellow come through the gym one day and slap hands with everybody, said to me, don't ever try to be black. You know, you're a white man coaching a black team, and, you know, and keep it. Be yourself, because the day you try not to be yourself, you're going to lose us.
This is Wilma Rudolph winning the 100 meters at the 1960 Rome Olympic Games. She is just one of the many track and field stars trained at Tennessee State University with Coach Ed Temple, the most successful women's track coach in Olympic history. This is Edith McGuire, a gold medal winner in the 200 meters at the 1964 Olympic Games. She also was trained and taught by Ed Temple.
This thing of going to college just for sports, I think is naive. I mean, we're just wasting time if we're going to go to universities and educational institutions just for athletics. You're supposed to go there to get an education so that if you hurt your leg or hurt your arm, that you have something to fall back on. And this is what you're there for.
Being into track got me the scholarship at Tennessee State, but it doesn't stop there. I don't think that getting into some kind of sport is going to turn you into a millionaire or whatever, because there's too many people trying to do the same thing. And I would say if you're interested in sports, get into it. If it can get you a scholarship, take it. But if that is not for you, then get your education, whether it's college or some kind of skill, because everyone isn't meant to go to college, but get something that can make a living for you, a comfortable living, whatever it is that you want out of life.
Sport, unlike other professions, still differentiates between black and white. The press rarely identifies a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or an actor as black.
The black athlete, according to a number of studies, has to be 20 to 25% more proficient in terms of his activity than his white counterpart. At the same time, he might earn as much as 30% less. A number of owners actually ask that their personnel recruitment people extend themselves to recruit the black athlete because they sign cheaper. And then once they're assigned, they have a tendency to be segregated in typically black positions. For example, in the NFL, you find that blacks play the positions that are most dangerous in many instances, flanker back, deep back, where the average playing time is 3.5 years. The average career is 3.5 years, whereas positions such as center and quarterback will last an average of 7.5 to 9.5 years. These are typically white positions. And so, again, sport at every level in American society generally reflects the kinds of circumstances that confront blacks in the society as a whole.
With exception, possibly, of maybe O.J. I don't think I know of any black athlete that has more endorsements than I do. Tennis in general lends itself to commercial endorsement. Shoes, clothes, rackets, whatever. Whether you're playing or not, if you're a name, the possibilities are there.
And so you have not been cut out from that?
No. In fact, being black in my particular instance is an asset because I'm the only one. And being black has meant that my price has gone up.
If $12 or $13 million is up for grabs every year.
Every year, that's right.
How are we going to get more black players of talent to compete for that?
Well, that's a dilemma I have. I think, in absolute terms, a higher priority that I have is not so much to encourage black kids to try to become pro tennis players as opposed to, say, a pro basketball player, but to get them to go to school, and once you get there, stay there. If you really pin all of your hopes on trying to be a pro athlete, no matter what the sport is, you really, in essence, make a bet with yourself. You're betting that, this is the typical black inner-city youngster. Yes. I am betting that if I play basketball, from the time the school lets out till the time my mother says, you gotta come home, one day I'll be Walt Frazier. The odds are, statistically, he won't make it. No way he'll make it. Not only will he not make it, he will have nothing to put in its place because he pins all of his hopes on trying to be a pro athlete. And if he goes to a high-powered college, he's expected to, to do whatever he can to ensure that his team wins a national championship. And he may come out after 4 years of eligibility with no degree, not having studied, and not making it in the pros. So what does he have? Zero.
He's made a very poor bargain.
That's a terrible bet to make with yourself. Terrible bet.
A lot of people here going to the Olympic Games, regardless whether they know it now or not. In terms of what you know right now running or what you learning and running, a lot of kids don't have this.
If I don't make it, really, I'm going by, my speed. But if I don't make it, I can always fall back on math because I never made it no lower grade than a B in math.
I have my mind set on if I don't make it in football, to be a lawyer, study law, and become a lawyer.
I want to be a PE teacher or a math teacher.
I'm not saying don't come out here with your music, don't come out here to party, but come out here to do the job that's necessary for you to be a winner.
I'll become a doctor.
sport is such a Alice in Wonderland situation that the adjustment back to real life is one that very few make in any kind of easy or any kind of graceful fashion. I think that blacks have to continue to struggle to create alternatives, especially in high prestige occupational areas, areas which involve power and authority. We must understand the character and nature of our involvement in sport.
You've heard many thoughts and many opinions as to just what has happened to the black athlete since Jackie Robinson broke the color line in baseball in 1947. We've heard from athletes, coaches, educators, professional men and women, both black and white. As for me, I believe that the goal of sport must be to provide every man and woman with an equal opportunity to develop his or her skills to maximum capacity. I believe that the boy and girl athletes of minority races must insist upon an honest education, independent of their athletic skills. But even more important, they must not see sport as the ultimate goal in life. Rather, honestly and maturely, they should determine whether an athletic career is feasible or even desirable. And if not, they should give the same effort and dedication they give to sport to the other hundreds of opportunities that offer a productive lifetime experience. I'm James Michener.